We gained something like $81,000 within our initial 20 days. Our day one, we absolutely crushed it. We were funded in less than 28 minutes. One of the things that I was concerned with was, if we're working with an email marketing specialist, do they have any experience working with any startups? I didn't really know what to expect at the beginning because it's a startup brand, right? One of the first emails that you guys had sent out, we got something like 80 reservations on the spot. And I just remember looking at my phone and seeing all the reservations coming in. And I was like, oh my God, what just happened?
Somebody right now, they're on the fence, like, should they invest into working with our team or not? What would you tell them?
Don't even second guess it. My name's Sophocles Sorellis. Everybody calls me Sofo. I am a physical therapist. I'm also the founder of Symbol, which is a startup sneaker brand focused on creating anatomically shaped footwear. We're currently starting off with training footwear. The initial conversation started right within the new year. I believe I met you through Upwork once. I believe it was the end of January or the beginning of February. I needed some assistance with email campaigns. I am not a email expert. And, I was having difficulty setting up some emails for my startup brand and preparing for a Kickstarter launch. So I was looking for some assistance, and that's when I came across you on Upwork and then learned more about GrowMyMail, which has been a godsend. It's been absolutely amazing to have you guys. Again, I don't have the expertise to constantly create campaigns and different emails and understand the strategies of how to get people to open, how to get people to actually purchase through what we're trying to do. So you guys really helped in that regard.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your feedback. And when you first started looking for solutions, what were you actually trying to achieve? So you mentioned you had a startup. What was the goal? Why did you actually need help to begin with?
It was like, hey, can I trust them to set up the campaigns properly, to create good email designs, to professionalize our emails a little bit more? Because prior to working with you guys, our email list or our copy and our design was very, very, very basic. And you guys were able to take my visual assets and actually improve the design, improve the copy, and really create some awesome engagement. So I appreciate that.
No, anytime, absolutely. Do you feel comfortable sharing the specific goal that we had when we first started working together on the account? So you mentioned you have the startup. What was the primary goal when we were first meeting and we were first discussing?
So the primary goal at the time was to gain as many VIP reservations as we could for our initial sneaker, which is the Symbol XT1. We had a large email list. At the time, it was roughly, I think, 5,000 emails. That email list grew to about 9,500. And we knew we had a lot of people that had signed up, but just didn't understand how to actually go through the VIP process and actually set up their reservation, which was very simple. It was a one-click thing that took them to the page, but the way we had set it up just wasn't very fluid. And then once you guys came in, you guys were able to start creating a campaign that continuously remind our email list that, hey, all you have to do is click right here, set up your reservation, drop $1 to reserve your pair. And then on top of that, the other thing that you guys did, and another big goal of ours, was actually collecting information from our customers about their reservations. We needed to know what sizes they were interested in, what colorways they were interested in. And that information was extremely helpful because now we have some preliminary data prior to our Kickstarter campaign finishing. We have some preliminary data that we were able to provide our manufacturer.
I see, yeah. And all of this data, all of these reservations, if I remember correctly, the specific goal was to make a successful Kickstarter launch for your brand, right? So that you could actually go into production and then actually start the brand from there.
Absolutely. And, just to add on to that, you guys were successful in that manner. Currently, we're sitting at about 110% funded, 115% funded on Kickstarter. We've gained something like $81,000 within our initial 20 days. Our day one, we absolutely crushed it. We were funded in less than 28 minutes, which was incredible to see.
Can you describe some of the initial challenges? You touched a little bit on this. You mentioned clinical rotation. If I remember correctly, you were working like 70 hours per week or something at that point. Why were you not able to get this done? Or I guess what were the biggest challenges for you? Why were you looking for help in the first place?
Yeah. So, I mean, the big thing for sure was time. My time demand during my clinical rotation was pretty high. I was in the facility around 5:30, 6 in the morning, and I wouldn't leave sometimes until 6 o'clock in the afternoon or in the evening. And, on top of that, it was like I had to do things for school. I had to do things for the business that didn't relate to email when it came to talking with manufacturers, preparing for our Kickstarter launch, actually, establishing things on our Kickstarter page. So there was a lot of demand on my end. So just being able to like offload some of that demand, especially with emails, because like the email component is, I wouldn't say tedious, but I would say that it takes some effort, right? Especially if you want to create really, really nice email campaigns and designs and copy. Like you have to meticulously sit through, read, ensure that, hey, if I'm a customer and I'm looking at this email, am I going to just blow it off and blow right past it? Or am I actually going to be drawn to it? Am I going to click through it, and am I going to read what's going on and, click the necessary link that's going to take me to some action item that I, as a VIP, or I, as someone who wants to purchase a product, am I going to click through it and actually take the time to do it? So that was a challenge for sure on my end, just between time and demand. You guys were extremely helpful in that regard. You guys obviously, gave me the time necessary to divide my attention and bring it towards different priorities while you guys managed and handled all the email aspect of our campaign.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you sharing that. And I would be happy for us to talk a little bit more about numbers. But before we talk about that, when we were first meeting, you mentioned that the biggest challenge that you guys had, and you specifically had, was one, timing, and two, expertise. Now, when you were talking to myself and when I was introducing you to like what it is we do at GrowMyMail, do you remember like what were some of the biggest concerns that you had when we were first meeting before we actually started working together?
Yeah, I mean, a few of the concerns that I had was design and copy. I didn't have time to sit down and, design things out. I didn't have time to sit down and write out a bunch of copy. I had ideas of what we were going to do and what we were going to talk about, but I just shared those ideas with you. And, you kind of eased my concerns, and you were like, hey, we can write the copy, we can design, we can ensure that the emails are going to drive some attention, which was, exactly what we needed at the time. I'm a medical professional, so when it comes to stuff like that, it would take me hours in comparison to you guys who are email experts and marketing experts, where it would take you, a couple of minutes in comparison. So that was a major difference. As soon as we had gotten started, we dove right into the action plan. We started our onboarding process. Right after the onboarding process, I think within just a couple of days, we already had some templates on Figma written out, and I had some time to review those, make some small revisions, and that would take me significantly less time than it would have if I was sitting there designing out the emails. So yeah, that was my biggest concern. And you definitely eased those concerns very, very quickly.
In addition to this concern that you had with your own skills, which is absolutely, I mean, I totally get it. Imagine if I had to go and like perform the things that you've studied 10 years to do.
Yeah, so one of the things that I was concerned with was, if we're working with an email marketing specialist, do they have any experience working with any startups? Because with a startup, it's more about like getting recognition and just having people
Absolutely.
discover us.
Yeah.
So that was a big thing, right? And it's not your typical like, hey, buy this now. It's more taking a customer through a journey. And through the email campaigns that we game planned together, you were able to take the customer through a journey from the point of contact to actually getting the reservation to continuing to educate the customer on what we're trying to do, what we're trying to build, why we need certain information like sizes and colorways and how many pairs they're interested within, getting into the finer points of like how the shoe was actually built, what the purpose behind it was. So those were some things that we were concerned with. Like, hey, if we're working with an email marketing specialist, are they going to be able to take this customer through this journey? Because a lot of customers normally they just buy something and then they move on with their lives. But with a startup brand, especially one that's launching on Kickstarter, you have to take them through this journey. They have to be bought into what you're trying to do as a brand in and of itself, because
Yeah.
you're not immediately getting a product. So they have to understand that, which is a bigger component, right? Because if they're not willing to wait and willing to engage, then that becomes an issue, right? But the fact that you guys were actually able to take our customers through the journey, tell a story through that journey, and then on top of that, have them commit to the action and, provide us with any information that we needed. That way we can continue to move on. That was extremely helpful.
On that, I'm actually curious, if you don't mind sharing, like, what is the thing that you enjoy most about our collaboration?
I think it was the constant communication. We were going back and forth, between you and your team on what the goal is. Our goal is to ultimately build up our email following, maximize what we're trying to do with all of the email signups that we had, get them to convert into reservation. One of the crazy things was like one of the first emails that you guys had sent out, we got something like 80 reservations on the spot. And I just remember looking at my phone and seeing all the reservations coming in. And I was like, oh my God, what just happened? And then I realized like, oh, Ilko sent out some emails. Let's go. This is perfect. So that was a big thing. And yeah, man, the communication was a major factor, being able to consistently communicate through Slack and, just update each other on progress, whether it be on our end, what the next steps are, or, what you guys were working on and when I should expect any sort of drafts or anything like that I needed to review. It was really helpful to work with a team because, this is a bootstrap business. I've been doing this myself for a couple of years now, and, just trying to focus on building the product and building the brand. And ultimately when you're so focused on that, it's like, okay, well, now I have to do emails. That's another massive task to add on to everything. And once you guys came in, it was like, all right, perfect. I have somebody who's willing to communicate, somebody who is focused on the goal, and, is actually going to work with whatever suggestions that I make. And then on top of that, like, because I'm not a email expert or, marketing specialist or anything of that nature, you guys added your expertise into it, where it would be like, hey, we'll add this call to action button here. We're going to write this. We think that this is going to be a little bit more powerful. And I was like, oh man, that's actually a great idea. Let's rock with that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I see what you're saying, and I appreciate you sharing that. And on that, actually, because you touched on this a little bit about results, what are part of the expectations that you had when we were first stepping into this partnership in terms of goals, and then how does that compare to the results that we actually were able to achieve for you?
I didn't really know what to expect at the beginning, because it's like it's a startup brand, right? Like you're
Yeah.
doing everything you possibly can to gain the most interest and the most engagement from our customers or our VIPs or whatever it may be. We're our goal is, hey, we need to maximize it. Whatever that number turns out to be, it turns out to be. I didn't have a set number in mind. You can sit there and chat with AI and say, hey, what would be a good number or anything like that. And even then, it could be completely off. But one of the big things was, because we had built up a little bit of an email list, we wanted to gain something like 10% of those emails, which we absolutely smashed. The other thing was like going into the Kickstarter campaign, obviously we wanted to get funded. We wanted to get funded fast. And we had an internal goal versus our external goal on Kickstarter. Our external goal is what's demonstrated on Kickstarter, where it's like, we need a pledge of up to $10,000. And right now, like I said before, we're sitting at around 81,000. So we absolutely crushed our internal goal, which was actually at 60,000. That was a major accomplishment. We built up all of the hype. We informed our customers, and they were ready to go throughout this launch.
On that, actually, if somebody is, say, you're talking to somebody right now and they're on the fence, like, should they invest into working with our team or not? What would you tell them?
Don't even second guess it. If you're somebody who's very busy, you have other priorities for your startup brand and you need to focus on them, and you just don't have the time, go right ahead, start working with GMM. Your concerns are going to immediately be put on ease because you guys are going to handle it, and the communication is going to be there. You're going to be informed across the entire span of what's going on. So yeah, I would say don't even second guess it. Just jump right into it. You're good to go.